Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to episode 137 of Making It with me, your host, Terry Woolman. I really appreciate you joining us each week, and I'd like to thank Blue Microphones for their technical support in continuing to bring our show to you during this World Health pandemic. Please continue to stay mindful and safe as we all work together as a global community. You can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just go to terrywoolman.com/podcast. I hope you find my recent conversations with artists Boney James, Gino Vanelli, Tony Basil, Peter Erskine, Joe Vitale, and Berklee College of Music President Roger Brown inspiring, entertaining, and comforting. I created this show to focus on what it takes to maintain a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the entertainment business. But today we're going to change direction a little bit. My guest today is Rose Schindler, a Holocaust survivor. And I want to talk about her ability to survive. Let me tell you a little bit about Rose. Rose Schindler was born in 1929 and raised in Czechoslovakia. Rose was deported to Auschwitz along with her parents, aunt, 5 sisters, and 2 brothers when she was just 14 years old. Her husband, Max Schindler, was born in Cottbus, Germany. Max and his family were deported to Poland and sent to a forced labor group in 1942. Over a 3-year period, Max was sent to 6 concentration camps. Despite these horrible beginnings, Max and Rose found each other and have been engaged in Holocaust activities for much of their lives. They are members of the 45 Aide Society, the New Life Club, a local San Diego organization of Holocaust survivors, and involved in the Butterfly Project, whose mission is to educate students about the Holocaust. They have been interviewed extensively by the news media, and their video testimonies are included at the USC Shoah Foundation Institute, the organization founded by Steven Spielberg. Their book is called Two Who Survived, Keeping Hope Alive While Surviving the Holocaust. Rose Schindler, welcome to Making It.
Thank you very much.
It's really lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
What changed for you that you decided that it was really time to share your story and to go speak to schools, to kids, to write your book?
Well, it's been on my mind for many years, okay? My husband, Max, he was not so interested in having a book or telling stories. Not everybody can do certain things, you know what I mean? Me, I go in front of a microphone and I can speak, and I have no nerves. I do it very well. I've been doing it for close to 50 years, telling my story. So it's just very common for me to do what I'm doing, okay? And the book actually was on my mind for, I would say, at least 15, 20 years to write, or maybe even more. But we were always busy, raising a family, working, and doing this and doing that. So finally, the past 2.5 years or so, I said, well, maybe this is a time for me to start doing the book. Because I've had several people who were asking me, whenever you're ready to write a book, let me know. People who write books. But one day I was talking at a school, and one of the lady that wrote my book, she was there listening to me, and she got hold of me at the right time, and that's when the book got started. Okay? So, and this is her first time she ever wrote a book, too.
There are no accidents, right?
Right. Well, there were many other people that asked me, Rose, whenever you're ready to write the book, let me know. Maybe I can help you. But I wasn't ready. And, after Max passed away, I just figured maybe it's better time to do it, or, time is passing by. I'm not a young person. So that's when we started doing it. So
Max passed away in 2017, correct?
Right. January 14th.
And you've raised 4 kids together. One of the things that I would love for you to share, and we'll start by talking about your early years growing up on a farm and having kind of a regular life.
Right.
You and Max, you really created a beautiful life together and 4 kids, and you found joy.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were very busy actually, raising families and working and looking for good things ahead of us. Okay, so we were always busy doing something. So,
Well, take me back to your happy memories before the horrific things started to happen. What was it like just being a little girl growing up in Europe?
it was great. We lived in a village called Seregna in Czechoslovakia. Okay, we were 8 children, 6 girls and 2 boys. My father was a tailor. He was the best tailor in town. They used to say whenever Mr. Schwartz made a suit, it looked like it was poured on you. That's how he was. He was such a good tailor. We lived in, you cannot imagine how we lived. We lived in a 3-room house. We were 10 people. We had no electricity. We had no indoor plumbing. Today, if you talk about, it's unbelievable for kids to hear something like that. But that's how we lived. And since we did not have anything better, it was fine. It was great.
If you've never had it, how can you miss it?
You don't miss it. Absolutely. Right. I don't think we had 1,500 people in my village. I don't even know if we had that many. But anyway, we had 600 Jewish people in the village, okay? And we had a wonderful life under the Czech government. But once Hungary took over, Hungary and Hitler, they were allies. So Hungary did all of Hitler's dirty work. We didn't see an SS soldier till 1944, maybe about 3-4 weeks before Passover. That's the first time we ever saw an SS soldier. So, and actually my parents were born in Hungary, okay? But then it became Czechoslovakia after the Second World War.
So what do you remember, what's your early memories of when things started to change?
Well, it all started to change probably in 1938, okay? Mm-hmm. Up till then, we had no problems whatsoever, okay? And in 1938, a half a dozen Hungarian soldiers came in on bicycles. Remember, we had no transportation in our villages. If you were rich, you had a bicycle, okay? Otherwise, we had good feet, okay? Right. So we could walk from one end of the village to the other in half an hour. So these 6 Hungarian soldiers came on bicycles, and we had no idea what they were doing there. Me as a 14, actually I was not even 10 years old that time, in 1939, okay, 38. So I had no idea what was happening, but my parents were born in Hungary. So it was nothing so different. And we spoke Hungarian at home, and we also spoke, of course, Czech because the schools were Czech. And we also spoke Yiddish at home, okay? And we also, actually, we spoke several languages, Russian, Ukrainish also. Anyway, so they came in on these bicycles, and we didn't think much about it. Me as a 8 or 9-year-old at that time, I have no idea what I thought about it. Maybe our parents knew more than we did, all right? And so things little by little started changing. Within 6 months or maybe 9 months, all the Jewish kids were not allowed to go to school anymore, okay? And then all of the Jewish businesses were taken away. My father had a tailor shop in the middle of town, and he had several people working for him. It was actually it's not a town, it's a good-sized village, let's put it that way, okay? Mm-hmm. Because there's so many villages in that part of the world. My grandparents lived 6 kilometers away, and they didn't have more than probably 300-400 people in that village. But that's how people lived. They didn't know any different, and it was fine.
And your village was in between 2 other villages, right?
Big cities. Right. There was Munkac and Ungvar. Okay, so Munkac. If I'm in my house in Seregna, Munkac was on the right-hand side. Ungvar was on the left-hand side. Mm-hmm. It was like 20 kilometers. No, 20 miles. Excuse
20
me,
miles.
not 20 miles on either side. Okay, mm-hmm. So we actually had an aunt and uncle in Ungvar. Okay, and of course he was killed in this First World War. So my aunt, after a few years later, she came and lived with us. So we were 11 people in my house, and her son left for Israel also. So my father said, look, you're all alone. If you like, you can come and live with us. So what's another bed in the house, okay? Mm-hmm. Every room had beds. So, and we also had an aunt in Munkac by the name of Katz. And I feel so bad because after we came back after the war, we never went to Munkac, and we never know what happened to our cousins in the Katz family who lived on the Yiddische Gasse, which means Jewish street. That was the name of the street. So we never saw each other, and I feel so bad that we didn't bother to go to Munkac and see if any of the cousins came home. Okay? So, and I actually believe that there is a cousin by the my cousin's daughter, I believe, actually lives somewhere in Los Angeles. I found out about that many, many years ago, but I never got the address. So I never could get hold of her because she's remarried and has children, probably maybe a grandma by now. Okay? All I know is I have some cousins in L.A., and I wish I would know where they are. So if anybody hears about this, please let me know. Okay.
And if anybody hears about this, contact me on my website, and I'll make sure that Rose gets the message.
Well, thank you.
Because I know how important that is
right.
to you because of the tremendous amount of loss and of life of friends and family, but also the lack of closure that you are able to have when people just disappear, when they're gone, and you just don't know.
Yeah, right.
How have you managed to survive that, to adjust to that, or is that something that just never completely
I don't know. Remember, I was a young kid when this started, okay? And somehow, I had two older sisters. Three of us survived the war, Helen and Judy and me. The rest of the family was all killed, okay? So I really don't know. We put the past behind us, okay? Because if you live with it every day, it's not good either. You know what I mean?
It's too painful.
It's too painful, right? So, yeah. Well, remember, this happened when I was young, 8, 9 years old, and problems, okay? But our family must have been at least 175 to 200 or more, complete family. My mother and my father, we had cousins all over the place in Czechoslovakia, okay? I think maybe a dozen of us survived the war that I know of. Okay, because we really never were in touch by writing to each other or anything. It was always, in those days, when there was a wedding, people would get together, families would get together. Otherwise, we never traveled anywhere. We would walk to my grandparents' house, which was 6 kilometers away. Or was it 6 miles? I'm not even sure. No, it was short. You could walk it probably in 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours. But otherwise, there was no corresponding and stuff like, or talking on the phone. There was no such thing in those days.
Right.
So
you were mentioning your sisters surviving with you, and in your book, you had said that one of the things that your Tata told you was, whatever you do, stay together because you will have a much better chance of survival.
Right. If I would have been alone, I don't think I would have survived. But you know something else? I had more guts in me than my 2 older sisters. I would do things that I wasn't supposed to do, okay? Let's put it that way.
Well, right. For example, one of the times when you decided that you were just going to ask one of the officers in the camp for more food.
Oh boy,
to keep your strength up.
Did I get spanked? Not spanked. I got hit so badly, I couldn't stand up for 3 days, okay? Because they cut my slice of bread in half. You believe that? And my sister said, next time, shut your mouth and don't say another word. Just be happy that you're still here. You know?
Tell our readers, what was a typical allotment for food during the day? A piece of bread?
There was no food. It's not for human beings. We had coffee in the morning, a pot of coffee for maybe 6-quart pot of coffee for maybe 12 people. The coffee tasted like black soot. Anybody that tried it one time, they never tried it again. It was unbelievable. Okay, that was our breakfast. And then for lunch, we would get a slice of bread with a piece of margarine, and that's when I complained because they cut my slice of bread in half. And lunch and dinner time, we would get soup. We get a pot, maybe 6-quart pot or so. I'm not sure how big those pots were. And we would share it between a dozen of women or more. Take a sip. If you were lucky to get a potato, that would have been a good day for you. It was cabbage and rice and a lot of dirt and sand in it. And that's all I can remember about it. There was nothing else in that soup. It was unbelievable, okay? And whatever it was, we shared it with many other women, okay? I don't know, 6 or 8, I don't know, 10 of us. It's such a long time ago. But we shared it. But believe me, you couldn't live on anything like that. It's not even wasn't even good for animals, okay? Not edible. You see, we were in a transitional camp, Camp C. Auschwitz, Birkenau, Camp C. There was A, B, and C. One camp was Czech, one was Hungarian, and the gypsies. You know, they did the same thing to the gypsies. All of the gypsies from Europe were taken to, just like the Jews, okay? We had a lot of gypsies in our country. They used to live in the forest, but they were always on the go. They would come to my town, Serenye, all the time, and they would do a lot of work for the Jewish people, and they would get food and whatever, you know, they would get help. And that's how they lived, the gypsies. And they lived in a forest between Serenye and Lince. Lince was my grandparents' house. And so that's where they lived. And one time, actually, about 1936 or so, we had an epidemic in our village. You know, epidemics happen all over the world. It does happen. Many children got very sick all of a sudden. They got sick on Saturday. By Wednesday, half of them died, which 3 days later, and one of my sisters was in there. So, of course, after this happened, we were 8 children. 4 of us were older than me and my 3 older sisters, two older sisters and an older brother, and I had 3 younger sisters and a younger brother. They sent us to my grandparents, all the young ones, between me and my younger sisters and brother, not my 2 older sisters, because supposedly it was a very dangerous disease, and it was for children. They got it very fast. So after my sister died, started Saturday, my sister died on Wednesday. Can you believe that? She was about, I would say, 12 years old. That's or fast. So. Yeah. And of course, my parents sent the 4 of us to my grandparents in the village, okay? And I hated it over there. I didn't like it at all, okay? So after being there probably a week or so, I ran away.
Of course.
I left. I said, I'm not going to stay here. They made me sleep with my grandmother, and my grandma was sick, and she would snore all night, and I couldn't sleep. I would have been better off to sleep on the floor. And
so anyways, did you walk back to your village?
I walked back, but on the way back, some man came on a what do you call that? With horses and
a buggy or
a buggy. Yes, he was on the road going to Serenye. And he stopped and he says, where are you going? What are you doing here? I mean, you know, I was, actually there I was 13 years old, okay. So I told him, and he says, do you want to have a ride? Because if you're going to walk this way home, you know, the gypsies live in the forest. They're going to find you and they're going to cook you and eat you up. That's what he told me, okay? So I said, sure, I'd love to have a ride with you. So he took me home. And my parents were very surprised to see me come back. But they had no choice. I told them what happened, that I hated it over there. We were, you know, stuck together, all of us there in a 2 or 3 bedroom house, okay? This is how we lived. So that's how I got home. And of course, we had to be very careful, okay, after we did that. About staying away from a lot of things. I don't know how many kids died, but many children died. Okay, that time.
How did that pandemic end? Or did it just sort of wear itself out?
Well, it wore itself out.
Okay.
It probably took a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Or maybe more. I'm not exactly sure how long it took. Sure. But I know my 3 sisters and brothers stayed with my grandparents for quite a while. Okay. And then, and actually, somehow, one of my sisters that came home, she got very sick. Okay. And they said she would not survive. Okay. And my father didn't give up. He took her to Budapest to a doctor to see her. And actually, in the Jewish religion, if somebody dies, somebody, I guess, important, they give you another name. So my sister survived this little horrible, horrible, horrible disease that she had, okay? And they gave her another name. And her name was Blimchu. Okay, she was a beautiful, blonde Jewish girl with blue eyes, okay? But of course, she got killed in Auschwitz 4 years later. So, but the doctor said, even if she survives, she's not going to be a normal child. But my father wouldn't give up.
Right.
And he tried everything he could. And we always used to have a lot of fun with her and making jokes about her, But she was so beautiful, unusual. Unfortunately, she was killed in the gas chamber. She was my mother. 3 sisters and brothers. When we came into Auschwitz, first thing they did was right in the gas chambers.
Well, and somebody had told you to lie about your age.
Right.
And that saved you.
Yes. Right. But let me tell you, do you know all the work in the camps was done by our own people? Everything. If we wouldn't do it, they would shoot you. They would kill you. So everything was done by our own people, and they had no choice. So they marched us in, to the train, and we were on the train, they marched us to the train station, which was maybe 5 minutes away from where we were. And the three SS were asking questions. So my SS was. So anyway, when we all came with luggage, by the way. Okay, let me tell you. The train opened and this helper came on the train, one of the survivors, okay? Comes on the train, he says, I came on the train to help you with your luggage. And he comes to me, he says to me, how old are you? I said, I'm 14. He says, tell him you're 18. And that's all he did. Okay, and then he goes around looking at other kids to see if he could tell the kids and boys to lie about their age, because they didn't bring us there to have a good time. They brought us here for slave labor. Okay, so we got off the train and we were walking for a couple of minutes, and we come in front of 3 SS soldiers, and he's separating us. My father and my brother Philip. He was, I think, a year and a half older than me. He points to them. He says, "You go to this line." My mother and 3 sisters and one brother to another line. And my 2 older sisters, the SS points to them, "You go over there." And he says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 18. And my sister Helen says, "Oh no, she's only 14. I said, "Oh no, I'm 18. The SS let me go with my 2 older sisters. Otherwise, I would have gone with my mother and 3 sisters and brothers straight into the gas chamber. So it was unbelievable what was going on. So these men, the people working in the camps, they try to help survivors. Okay, so what a chance you have is to lie about your age. That's what you have to do. So.
This brings me to another quote from your book, because you were mentioning that your own people were the ones who were doing the work. You were forced to do horrendous things.
Right.
I'll just read a passage. I ask repeatedly why we can hear people crying out near the crematorium. I learn that when a group is gassed in the showers, not all people are dead when they burn the bodies. Maybe they don't give them enough gas, because we can hear the screaming from the crematorium. The men running the incinerators, called Sonderkommandos, will be sent into them soon, so they cannot tell the world what is happening. So even the people that were killing Jews, that were being forced to kill Jews, were killed themselves.
Absolutely. I think probably after 3-4 months they used to do that. Yes.
It's unimaginable.
It's terrible. You cannot explain it. You cannot explain what we went through and how it happened, and the whole world was silent while this was going on. Okay. So actually, when they separated us from my parents and my mother and 3 sisters and brothers, and then later, we see this fire, the smoke. So the chimney was so tall, it was burning night and day, and the smell was so strong You couldn't believe it, okay? Because they were burning bodies constantly, okay? So, it's a lot of it is so unexplainable, okay? Really.
So, Rose, you said the world was silent. And historically, just looking back and with all the people that you've spoken with, why do you think that happened?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Remember, I was a young kid. I don't. But do you know something? Mr. Roosevelt, okay, the President of the United States, he was warned about this. He knew what was going on. And he was procrastinating constantly. People from Europe would come to America, okay? Because, so many men, they changed they got new identifications, okay? Especially from big cities. You can get new identifications and nobody would know who you are, okay? And it was easy to get that. But if you are a young kid, you cannot get it. And if you're from a village, you cannot get it, okay? Because people know you everywhere. So, and many men, young men, probably I would say in their 20s or more, or maybe even older, came to the United States on false identifications and went to speak to President Roosevelt, many times. And he was always procrastinating. He was telling him what was going on, but nothing helped, okay? So, unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable.
Unbelievable, okay? 5 months after we were taken away, our part of the world was liberated by the Russians.
I read that in the book, yes.
Okay, so, but nobody tried to help us. We were killed like animals, worse than that. Unbelievable.
And what do you have to say about revisionist history? We're talking about that people didn't listen then, but there are still people now that don't listen, that they don't want to believe that this happened in our history.
Well, I sure hope nothing like this ever happens again. Unbelievable, okay? This is in who knows how many thousands and thousands and thousands of years this world is here, okay? Hundreds of thousands of years, okay? Who knows? I don't know how long. Nothing ever happened like this, okay? And I sure hope it never happens again. You can't even explain it, how horrible this was, okay? What they did to us. And the world was silent, no bother to help us, okay? Including President Roosevelt. He could have helped us. They could have bombed the railroad stations.
Right.
You know that?
Yes.
The railroads, okay? Because there was
That's how people are being transported.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Yeah, but nothing was done.
Before we talk about what happened after and how once you were free and then made difficult decisions on where to move to and how to stay safe and what you wanted to do with the rest of your life, you had mentioned about when this all started, not being able to go to school anymore, and I want to read another passage from the book.
Okay.
On the last day of the school year, Sister Mary approaches me as I'm getting ready to leave. Royce, I must speak with you, she tells me quietly. Royce, today will be your last day of school. I am puzzled by this statement and look at her for a moment. Yes, sister, I will see you in a few weeks when school starts again. I say, wondering why she's telling me this. No, Royce, 4th grade is your last year with us. You will no longer be allowed to come back here. Jews will not be allowed to attend this school any longer.
I remember that, yeah. So what could you do, okay? We were very real Orthodox Jews, okay? First of all, I'm really surprised that our parents let us go to the Catholic schools. But do you know that every time they would do the praying in the school, in the rooms, all of us Jewish kids would go outside. And this would happen 3-4 times a day. We would have to run outside all the time, so we really did not, there was no reason for us even to be there, okay? But the Catholic schools were kind enough to offer us to take us in, okay? These were all our neighbors, our friends in town. We were all one town, one village. We got along very well. And mostly all the non-Jewish people, they were mostly farmers in those days, okay? And they were making a living from the Jewish people because all the Jewish people were tradespeople. tailors, shoemakers, painters, builders, whatever, okay? We were friends. We went to school together. We all had a good time. But when Second World War broke out, everything went to hell, really. So.
Well, one of the full circle moments, I think, two of them in your life and in your later years, pretty recently, actually, in 2018, you were awarded an honorary high school diploma. Yes. From La Jolla Country Day School. And you also received an honorary Master of Business Administration by the California International Business University in 2019.
Right.
So you, in a sense, were able to finish school. That must have felt pretty wonderful for you.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're smiling right now as I'm mentioning your very fancy credits.
It's unbelievable. The Country Day School in La Jolla, I tell you, it was amazing. I had the uniform, the cap, the whole business, just like everybody else, okay? And it was a tremendous honor, all right? So the next day, I called the principal to thank him for this. He says, Rose, this is not an honorary degree. That's a real degree you got. That was really something. Yes. You see, when I speak at schools, they try to, do something for me. So unusual.
That's pretty lovely.
I have 3 degrees in my house from high school and college and another school. It's amazing. Okay. And I have it all in my living room on my furniture. And I look at it every day. I said, my goodness, can you believe that? Because, in my village, we only had school up to middle school. We did not have anything over middle school. If anybody wanted to get higher education, they'd have to go to Munkacharungar, where they had high schools. Okay, so anyway,
that's a lot to be proud of.
Right? Yes, I'm very thankful. Let me tell you, really thankful to get that. Okay.
Well, I would imagine you're thankful for a lot of things.
Absolutely, I'm thankful to this country. Let me tell you, for letting us come and live here. This is the best country in the world. I mean, we've lived in Europe, of course, and then we were taken to England after the war. We were brought to England for rehabilitation. There was a gentleman by the name of Sir Leonard Montefiore, a rich Jewish gentleman in London, and he said he wanted to bring 1,000 Holocaust survivor children to England for rehabilitation, because a lot of us, after we were liberated, a lot of us had problems. We were sick. We had all kinds of problems. So you had to be under age 16. Of course, a lot of the kids were over age 16 because we had no IDs anyway. All right. So Sir Leonard Montefiore brought he looked for 1,000, he found 732 kids. Okay. And I was part of that group. Actually, there's a book out. It's called The Boys by Sir Martin Gilbert, if anybody's interested to get it. So unfortunately, Martin Gilbert, he died, I think, 2-3 years ago or so. So he was very involved with a lot of the Holocaust survivor kids in England. Actually, he was even president one time of that group, because we formed a group.
Were you the president also of?
Here in San Diego, not in England. Okay, here in San Diego, New Life Club. Yes, I've been a president 3 times. We came to San Diego in 1956, and we joined the group, okay? And, of course, we were all busy working, all of us. We had a really nice organization here. Well, quite a few survivors came to San Diego. So I think some of them were brought, Roosevelt, I think, opened the gates for some of the survivors. Because not everybody had papers to come here. We came with papers. My husband's family sent us affidavits. So survivors were all over the United States, wherever they could find hostels where they could put them, you know what I mean? Or where they could live or something like that. So anyway.
Rose, in 1948, you and Max got engaged. And then you got married July 27th, 1950 in West London Synagogue when you were living in the UK.
Right.
So after that, how did you make your decision where to go, whether to go to Israel or to stay in Europe or to go to New York or California?
Right. Well, you didn't have much choices, really. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so even though I did have an aunt and uncle here in the United States, and they lived in McKeesport. My uncle was Boehm, Joseph Boehm. My uncle, Joseph Boehm, who lived in McKeesport, my mother's brother, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually didn't know much about him, but occasionally they would even send us packages to Europe, you know? And we would have so much fun getting clothes from America. So anyway, so when we were in England, I just, when Max and I got married, okay, Max's family offered us papers to come to America. Max was corresponding with his relatives, okay? I didn't even have my aunt and uncle's address at that time. So, so when we got married, kids were going to Israel, kids are going to Australia, and Max's relatives offered us papers. I said, that's my dream, is to go to the United States of America. So we came to America in 1951, okay? And a wonderful family that sponsored us, okay? Unfortunately, my Uncle Ben and they've gone at least 15 years or more already. And we have cousins still, one in New York, a couple in New York and one in LA. So, but let me tell you, this is the best country in the world. Everybody has an opportunity to be what they want to be. So if anybody wants to be something, don't ever give up. Remember, go after it, okay? Because you can do it. So.
One of the things, and your son Ben told me this, that is sort of a kind of a mantra or a talking point for you is what you just said, never give up. And you also say you have to have guts.
Absolutely. If I didn't have guts, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So many people committed suicide in the camps. They couldn't handle it, okay? They just couldn't handle it. And so many people died just by being in the camps, you know what I mean? I mean, there was nothing good over there. I mean, you can't even explain the horrible places we were in, okay? So and I had two older sisters with me. Believe me, they didn't like what I did sometime. I would go when we were in Auschwitz, I would go behind the kitchen where they would throw out stuff. Not that they would throw anything out, but sometimes you could find a piece of something that you could eat. I would go and see if I can find something. And sometimes there were dead bodies on the walking areas. We had no streets, just walking areas, dead bodies. And you would go into their pockets, see if there's something there, like a slice of bread. Because sometimes we would get a slice of bread, for lunch. We would save a piece for later, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I did all kinds of, now you might call it stupid things, but this is how I survived, okay? By not giving in and hoping that tomorrow will be better, okay? And every day we were praying that the war would end. Because remember, this is 1944. The war was going on over 4 years already, 5 years. And that's what we would get together sometime in the bathroom. You know, we had one bathroom in Auschwitz-Birkenau. It was a building. Sinks with cold water and holes in the ground. And we would a lot of times go and we would listen to gossips. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People were telling stories. And they would also give us some advice. Don't give up. Just keep going. And make sure that you stay around as long as you can, okay? And we heard that a lot in the camps. So some people listened and some didn't. Some just couldn't handle it. You would see so many people with their hands on the electric fences. We had 12-foot electric fences. And a lot of people didn't even realize they were electric. Who would think it's electric? They would touch it. And 20 seconds later, you see blood coming out of their nose and they're dead. So a lot of people, if they knew about it, they did it because they couldn't handle it anymore, and it was the fastest way to go. So,
Rose, if you don't mind, I'm going to just read one more quote from the book, and it speaks to that. This is in your words. And I'm hesitant to read it because it's got to be difficult to hear. It's difficult for me to read and to speak it, but may I?
Absolutely, sure. Go
I think
ahead.
It's important because I want people to read your book. I want them to go to your TED Talk that is coming out next week, I believe, and we're going to be posting that, and to go hear you speak publicly and to just devour this information because it's critical. So here's you speaking about that. I walk outside and I am shocked to see so many barracks just like the one we slept in, arranged in rows of buildings. There are dozens of people walking around outdoors, all shaved, all shivering. Some are wandering around like zombies. When I try to talk to one of these zombie-like women, she just stares through me, doesn't answer, and keeps walking. There's a 12-foot electric fence encircling the camp. Dead people hang from the fence, their bodies contorted. I wonder why so many people would grab onto the electric fence to end their lives. What kind of hell are we in? Why are we prisoners?
Unbelievable. That makes me cry.
Rose, I'm sorry.
It's awful. Unbelievable. And that's exactly what it was. Just what you read. It's almost unbelievable to believe anybody to say things like that, but this is what happened to us, okay? Oh, God. Where was God when this was going on? Tell me. What did we do to deserve all this? Complete families were wiped out. Over 6 million. Over 6 million Jewish people, okay? And actually, I don't think they ever counted the people that went in the gas chamber, okay? Because they went straight in. Nobody had any IDs. How did they know who it was, okay? So I doubt that they even ever counted those. And every day, thousands of them went into the gas chamber. And killed, dead. You could see the fire going every day, the smoke and the smell. We were so close to that place. I don't know. I don't know why they put us so close to that place. Maybe it wasn't not enough to kill us, but they wanted for people that survived to know what's going on. You know what I mean?
I do.
So.
Well, you did not deserve that. Nobody
God.
deserves that. Kind
Nobody deserved that. No. We were so religious, believed in God so strongly. Okay, didn't help us. God must have taken a vacation, huh? Too long a vacation.
Yeah. On the day that you were freed from the camp, it must have been also kind of surreal, not even being sure if it was safe or what to believe and what not to believe. Right. But I know that it was an amazing day.
Right. For me, yes, for all of us. We were 300 women, I believe. 200 or 300, I'm not sure. I can never figure that out. Anyway, so, we were working in Freudenthal in a factory, okay? We were 300 women, I believe. And so every morning they would come and pick us up to march us to the factory. It was like within a 5-minute walk, okay? I was working on masks. Can you believe that? The masks that are so popular today. Yes, I would have to sit on a kind of like a high chair, bend down, pick up a mask, look inside, put it on my face and test it and put it on the other side. 12 hours every day. That's what I was doing. My sister Helen, I think, was working on uniforms and Judy on guns. We were all in 3 different buildings, okay? So anyway, so they would come and walk us to the factory every day. We had electric fences around our buildings, okay? I don't know if it was electric because I don't think anybody tried to touch it, okay? But there was a gate and everything. And we were always marched to the factory to work. They would pick us up at a certain time. I don't know, about 7 in the morning or whatever. And we're waiting and waiting, and they're not coming. And this is May 1945. We were taken to this factory in the fall of 1944. I was in Auschwitz we were in Auschwitz for 4 months. And Auschwitz-Birkenau, this is a transitional camp. You come and you leave. Nobody stays. The only people that stayed behind are the ones that were not selected to go to factories to work. So, because it was 30 barracks, 28 barracks, 1,000 women in every barrack. A lot of women. So there were a lot of still a lot of people there, okay, even though they were taking people to factories all the time. So anyway, so I stole myself into this transport, okay? Otherwise, I would have never gotten in. They would have never selected me to go to any factory. So anyway, I said to the women in the building. We had a 2-story building. Hours we're waiting to be picked up, and nobody's coming. I said, I'm going outside, and we're not supposed to do that because usually it was always locked up. And so my sister said, you can't go out. I said, I'm going out. I'm not going to wait anymore. I think I was the youngest kid in the group. So I go, and the door is wide open. And I go outside. We had a small walking area, sitting area where we could, because one day a week we would get some Sundays, we would get a day off. And so I go out, and the gate is wide open. And all the SS ran away. And quickly I hear planes going over us, and I hear the Russian language. Behind the building where we lived, they were growing a lot of corn. A lot of corn in that area. And I'd see the gate open. I said, my God. And I had hair probably the same length as now. I mean, I have very short hair, by the way, and regular clothes, okay? And I figured if I go in front of and I could hear the Russian language, but if I go in front of the Russians in regular clothes, they would think I'm German. They would probably shoot me. So what I did, I tore a piece of the dress off and found a stick and put the piece of rag on a stick, and I went with my arms up and the stick and the rag and go to the back of the building where
waving
the Russians...
it in the air.
Waving it in the air to the Russians, because otherwise they probably would think I'm German and they would shoot me. So I went there, and they hugged me and they kissed me, and I told them who I was and that we had 300 women here, and they were so good to us, the Russian soldiers. Anything they needed, they would... If we didn't have it, they didn't have it, I think maybe they went to town and got it for us. Because all the Germans ran away in that town, in Freudenthal. I don't know how many thousands of people lived there. But anyway, and the next day, actually, after we were liberated, the next day a Russian soldier came to our building, and he says to me, do you want to go to town? Okay? I said, I love to go to town, because all we had was one dress, one set of underwear, one set of everything. And we would take a shower once a week, and they would give us clean clothes. Okay? So I said, we could use extra clothes, and we could use food, because all of a sudden we don't have food, because they would feed us every day. So I said to one of my friends over there was another girl, she was a year or year and a half older than me. I said, do you want to go? We're going to go to town. So this Russian big 6-foot guy holds my hand, and he holds my other friend on the other side. We're like two kids with a Russian. And I tell you, I think I was reborn that day. My whole body seemed like something went through my body that day. I said I was unbelievable feeling in my body, I don't know. I survived, and here's a Russian, he's taking us to town. Handsome Russian soldier. I just wish I would have had his name. I regretted that my whole life, that I didn't take his name and write his address down or something, okay? We didn't have those ideas in those days. So we went into town, and all the homes were open. All the Germans ran away. Because mostly the Germans had lived in these towns where women with children, because all the boys, they were in the military. So, and they know when the Russians are coming, the Russians were very easy with their guns. They were doing a lot of killing, okay? So a lot of the homes were left open, the doors were open. So we went into town, and we went into a couple of homes and took what we needed. How much can you carry? Okay. We looked for food and maybe an extra dress and an extra set of underwear, whatever. So we helped ourselves, which was an amazing, The Russians were very good to us. Okay, so, and I could speak some Russian, so it was easy for me, because we lived in a village where we spoke Ukrainian and Russian and stuff like that. So...
what a sweet memory.
Yes, and I tell you, after being there a couple of weeks, we all got sick because we overate.
I was going to ask you about that, making the transition from essentially being starved.
Well, we were not too starved, but not enough. Let's put it that way. Even though, by the way, while we were working in the factory, and working on these masks, I was bending down, up and down for 12 hours every day. And after doing that for 12 hours, I said to the person that was giving out the food, I said, this is hard work. I should get an extra meal every day. And good enough, she did give me an extra meal every day. And I would take it to our living quarters and share it with my sisters. Okay?
So there were moments of kindness amongst
Right,
the store.
absolutely. Oh, some people were working with Germans in the factory. Not only survivors. There were women working in the factories, and they were very nice to us, actually. Most of them, okay? So she said, sure, you could have an extra meal. So she would give me an extra meal. And it was great. You had to have a lot of guts to survive the camps, and Auschwitz especially. A lot of guts and hope. If you don't have hope, you have nothing. Remember that. You got to have hope. Actually, that's part of a song someplace. You got to have hope. Mm-hmm. And this is how we survived. Okay, by not giving in to those Nazis. Okay, to those animals or whatever.
You just mentioned kindness, and in the book you had also wrote, "It is part of our religion to always be kind to others," and that right. stood out to me.
Yes. Well, that's how we were raised, okay? Always be good to people, okay? And help out if you can. But unfortunately, nobody did that. Nobody did it for us. The whole world was silent on that part.
So I hear that you're a pretty good mahjong player.
Yes. Yes, I've been playing mahjong ever since we came to San Diego.
No kidding.
Right, I had no idea what it was. When we came to San Diego, we landed in North Park. Most people landed in North Park, going back to late 40s and early 50s. There was no Del Cerro, there was no Carmel Valley and La Jolla. Maybe La Jolla there was, I don't know. Probably La Jolla, yes. But anyway...
you said this was 1954?
56. We came to...
The year I was born.
Yes. Well, we came to San Diego in 56.
And by the way, I'm saying that because just to put this in perspective, this is not ancient history. This happened 12 years before I was born. You were basically in a concentration camp.
Right.
Even when I was a kid learning about this, Rose, it seemed like it was something that happened like...
Centuries ago?
Centuries ago. Mm-hmm. And you and many other people are alive and vibrant and passionate and talking to me right now about your own life. This is not ancient history. This is our history.
It's unbelievable something like this could have happened, really. That something like the world allowed this to happen, okay? But anyway, so we lived in North Park for 6 months. Then we bought a house in Allied Gardens, okay? And then 10 years later, we had 4 kids. So we bought a house in Del Cerro. And the first week we were in Del Cerro, we met our neighbor 2 doors down, also Jewish people. And we started to play mahjong. And it's been ever since. Well, right now we're not playing because of this terrible disease that's in the world. The whole world. Look what the whole world is, what's happening in the whole world. How could something like this happen, tell me? Such smart and educated people, and they let this happen. Unbelievable.
How are you holding up through this? Is this difficult for you, or are you
doing okay? I like everybody else. I'm the same as everybody else. I just can't believe that the world allowed this to happen. Okay? And I can't believe Trump allowed this to happen. He knew about it in December, supposedly. Okay? A lot of people knew about it. We had no idea. I didn't. Maybe somebody else did. I don't know. But there was a lot of talk about it a few months before. And, well, China kept it a secret, I guess.
There's a lot of secrets. My observation about Trump is that he's more concerned about his reelection, trying to get reelected than trying to protect the people that live in this country.
Well, that's terrible. That's absolutely, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable, and I hear, if anybody listens to my speak, this is unacceptable what he's doing. Okay? I'm sorry.
I'm in complete agreement.
Yeah. So
Couple things going on for you right now. You just recently did a TED Talk that's going to be coming out, and that's pretty cool.
I never knew anything about it. I never knew anything about TED Talks. Before I was sitting for 4 hours when I was taped, probably about, 2-3 months ago.
Did you enjoy doing it?
Yes, I was telling my story. That's it. No, I'm telling my story, and hopefully a lot of people, so many people don't know what happened to us during the war. You know that? Really, a lot of people. But you see, of course, today all the kids in school are learning about it because I speak at schools a lot. I speak at churches, at synagogues, Rotary clubs, the military. I've been speaking ever since my son Steve was at Lewis Junior High, and he was in the Anne Frank story. He played the part of Peter. And the teacher found out that his parents are Holocaust survivors. Okay? So that's when I first started speaking. So, and Steve is 61 years old now. So that's close to 50 years that I've been speaking at schools. And it's amazing because kids are so interesting. They're so interested.
They're curious, right?
They're so curious. When I speak, sometimes it could be 500-700 kids in a school. Okay, you can hear a pin drop. That's how they are paying so much attention. So,
are there any one particular question that you were asked by a kid that really is memorable to you or surprised you? Or
nothing ever surprised me. But some kids they ask the question. They ask all kinds of questions, okay? One question, would I forgive Hitler for doing what he did? So I ask them a question, would you forgive Hitler if they did this to you? There it is. How can you forgive for something like that? Anyway, yeah, that's a very common question.
It's a good question and a better answer.
Yeah. Well, Germany's trying to, make up a little bit. I don't know if they can ever make up for what they did.
But it's important that they try.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying.
What inspires you in life? Or who inspires you?
My family. That's my life, my family. I have wonderful 4 children. They're not children anymore. My oldest is 65 years old. Okay? And we have 9 grandchildren, and we have 1 great-grandchild. So that's my life, my family. And I hope that they never, never come across anything like this. And not only them, but the whole world. Okay? Because the world doesn't realize what they lost. Who knows? There could have been one of our people who was killed who could have found a cure for a cancer. Okay? Because the Jewish people really are in for education. You know that, right? They believe in education, and somebody probably could have maybe found a cure for that if they would have worked on it, okay? If they would have had an opportunity to work on it. Okay, so anyway, we just hope for the best. Whatever happens, that we all stand up for our rights, okay? Don't give in to the evil events, evil things, the bad things. Just stand up for your rights and do what you think you want to do, okay?
I've got a few closing questions for you.
Sure. I have all day, by the way. Since it started, I haven't been speaking in schools. It's lonesome.
Yeah, you finally get a chance to speak again.
I've been speaking 5-6 times a week, if it's during the day and at night to different organizations. I miss it. So
I understand. What lessons about life have you learned along your journey? And what's changed about your perspective in life as you've gotten older?
I don't know if anything has changed. My perspective. You get old, you think old. Life is beautiful. I want everybody to enjoy it while they can, okay? Things happen, and things, part of life. Whatever happens, make the best of it. Okay? It's not always fun and laughter. There's a lot of sadness in the world. But that's part of life. So, I don't know. I'm happy to be still here. I'm 90 years old. I never thought, whoever thought I'm going to live this long, really, if you think about it. In Europe, you know, when I was a child, people died in their 50s. They died so young, okay? I only knew one of my grandparents. I didn't know my other grandparents, my grandfathers or grandmothers, just one. And a lot of relatives, nobody was this age. I mean, 50 seemed to be 50, between 50 and 60 people died. So thank God we are living a long life. Hey, listen, from now on, you're going to live longer and longer. People will live over 100 years old. And take care of yourself and make sure you eat the right foods and, you know, do the right thing in the world. Okay? That's another thing. Be kind to each other. All right? Remember, we all have the same rights. So just be well and enjoy life. That's another thing. Enjoy your children and your grandchildren. So we have a little grandson who's a year old. Just
Mazel tov. That's great.
Thank you. He's named after my husband, Max.
Beautiful.
He would have enjoyed this so much. Unfortunately, I lost him almost 3.5 years ago. We were married 67 years. He was the only man in my life. Once I saw him in the hostel. I met him in one of the hostels. Nobody interested me. That was it. It's amazing how...
Well, you had a few other guys after you.
I did, but I had no interest in him at all. I had one who was so much in love with me. He said, I'm going to write to your sisters. He thought my sisters had a power over me. I'm going to write to your sisters and tell them why you don't want to have anything to do with me. That was really a funny thing that he did. Unfortunately, you know, he was a nice guy, but he was not for me. I mean, you know, he came from probably 5 kilometers from my village, okay? And I think the family, we knew each other, the families. So, anyway.
That's great. Well, you clearly made a good choice in Max, and he did in you.
Yeah, well, he was the only one in my life, actually. I mean, I tried to go out with others, but it never worked out. That's not for me, okay? So, no, he was a wonderful man, my husband.
My closing 2 questions that I ask all of my guests, you actually pretty much already answered the first one, but I will still present the question just in case there's any one other thing that you want to add, which is, since our show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you? And can you share any tips for success that have driven your survival?
Well, anything you want to do, you'll make it. How is that? Just go after it. Don't give up hope. You'll make it. Might take a little longer, but you'll make it. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's a pleasure meeting you. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Oh, we absolutely will. I've got one more question for you, Rose.
Yes.
At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, if you could, what would you tell your younger self?
My younger self? Go after whatever you want. Don't give up. How is that? And be good to your to family and friends and to the world. You can achieve a lot more that way.
I so appreciate you spending time with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I shouldn't say it's a pleasure. It's a necessity for it's a necessity to tell, because I know I speak to schools a lot and other groups and stuff like that, but there's still a lot of people that don't know what happened during the Second World War. Completely ignorant about it. You know?
Your book is called To Who Survived.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Keeping Hope Alive While Surviving the Holocaust.
Right.
So thank you. Any closing words for you? You get the last moment.
Well, enjoy my book. It's not a lot of fun. It's a sad story, but it's a true story what happened to us. And it's an important story because so many people don't know what it is. But I'm sure there must be some fun things in my book. Raising 4 kids and helping raise 9 grandkids, that was a lot of fun, let me tell you. Beautiful times we had, unbelievable. So thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Rose. And to all of our listeners, thank you for spending this time with Rose Schindler and myself. We both appreciate you.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.